Thank you very much, Spencer Badger, for your very kind gift, sir. Spencer Badger will now realise that after watching my garage video that I had a snake bite, and he very kindly went through my tank list, didn't think I had one, and bought one for me. But actually what I ended up with was 1,600,000 silver. Instead I got the silver equivalent, and actually that is much more use to me than the Cromwell snakebite, as playing the tier 10 lights seems to be quite an expensive business, and I have to have a really good game to earn money in those games. So thank you very much, sir, it's really appreciated, and it's a heartfelt thank you, because that's the first ever channel related gift I've had, and I'm really quite honoured. Thank you very much. Hello, I'm RetroJules. I hope you enjoyed the video I did the other day of the tanks in my garage. I kind of realised that perhaps you guys, if you don't have any friends that live close to you that tank, you probably don't really get to see other people's garages, have a look at the tanks, see who their crews are, what skills they've got, and just generally have a bit of a mooch. So I thought I would make that video for you. But I thought afterwards, actually, some of you might be interested more in the tier 10s that I've got. After all, that seems to be where most people want to head. The tier 10 machines are awesome, and it's kind of the penultimate aim in the game, I guess, to get yourself to tier 10 as an established tanker and play those awesome tanks. Tier 10 is not what it used to be. Tier 10 used to be, dare I say it, the professional gamers tier. It was very hard. My first tier 10 tank was the T57 I got to tier 10 way too early, wasn't ready for it, didn't know how to play the tank that I bought. I sold that tank, wish I hadn't now, and probably should buy it back. And I just wasn't ready for tier 10. I got annihilated, and anything I did on the battlefield was no use to anybody. But these days all I play is tiers 9 and 10. I do enjoy the high tiers, and the reason for that is probably because tier 10 is not as difficult or as hard as it used to be. It doesn't have that level of hardcore players out there anymore. Don't get me wrong, they are out there, but I don't think there's anywhere near as many as there used to be, as I believe a lot of the high tier players aren't playing this game anymore. Just my feeling, but tier 10, either my tanking has got better or tier 10 has got easier, and it might well be a little bit of both. But I got my T57 Heavy, an absolutely awesome auto-loading American heavy tank. And it was a toss-up really between going for the AMX 50B and going for this. And I got as far as the AMX 50 120 at tier 9, which I have. And I then compared it to the gun at the tier 10, and it had the same penetration and same damage, and thought, why am I going to spend 6 million on what is the same gun, on probably a tank that has perhaps a slightly faster reload and maybe slightly more accurate, no major differences. And then I got this, and this is so much better with its 4-shot autoloader that only takes 25 seconds to reload, unloads a shell every 2 seconds. When you unleash it, it can absolutely tear the enemy apart. And it has armour. The AMX 50 120 that I've got, which I can only compare to the 50B because I don't have it and I haven't got the stats in front of me, was longer between each shell, had absolutely 0 armour, but was very fast on the battlefield. But it is enormous, and it was so easy to hit. Whereas the angles of the armour on this T57 Heavy, that flat lid and that sort of pike-nosed turret and that sloped upper glacis, this is very effective also at bouncing shots. But the problems I've experienced with this is it is a bit slow, but that's probably because I'm used to playing fast tanks. The accuracy of 0.35 has often caused me problems. It's not a sniping tank, and I found a lot of shells would miss, and I found that the penetration at 258, which isn't bad, bounced a lot against the enemies I was firing at. So I love this tank, but do struggle with its accuracy and the penetration of the shells. I was really proud to get my Centurion Action X. 3 reasons why I wanted this tank. 1, because it was British. 2, because it had 10 degrees of gun depression, so I could play the ridge lines, and it had some excellent turret armour. And 3, when we're on 4 now, still going to call it 3, it's got a floodlight on its turret, and that was a big bonus for me because that looks awesome. I have not played this tank enough. I took a shortcut to it. I liked the tier 8. I didn't go much on the tier 9, and I did take a shortcut and didn't really unlock that properly. And I've got this, and I've not played it a lot. I'm looking forward to getting stuck into this tank. The introduction of tier 10 lights completely changed the direction I was going with tanks. The only reason I was going down the mediums was because there were no tier 9s to play. And I was originally going to be following the Patton and Pershing line, and I got to tier 7 and just compared the penetration between the British tanks and the American tanks, and the British tanks were amazing and the American tanks were pants. And I just thought, if I'm going to go up into the higher tiers with these tanks, even though I'm probably going to do higher damage, it's not much use if the shells keep bouncing. So I decided to go down the British line because of the high penetration, and I'm really glad I did. You will hear me moan that I think the British guns are pop guns, but you can't have high penetration and big damage all in one tank. It probably just wouldn't be fair. But that's why I went down the Action X line. I'm looking forward one day to sort of just perhaps putting the light tanks to one side when the tier 10 light tanks have lost their novelty for me, and going back to the mediums, doing some decent damage and probably playing a bit more strategically than I do now, and hopefully bring some top guns and, who knows, the odd Devastator medal to the table. My newest recruit, the Rheinmetall Panzer Wagon, the most accurate tier 10 light tank at 0.36. It's the snipiest of them, not overly accurate I don't think, 0.36, but definitely better than the others, and it's got an excellent view range of 410 metres. The fastest, or if not joint fastest tank in the game, along with the Snakebite. Same speed, same top speed as the T100 Soviet Light, but not quite there on the acceleration, but not far behind at all. It is quite a big target. It's a relatively tall tank, which is quite easy to hit, but an excellent 10 degrees of gun depression over the sides and over the front, but not over the back. Whereas the RU-251 Speerpanzer, you had the 10 degrees over the sides, but you didn't have that over the front or the back. It's early days for me with this tank. I just recently changed the equipment on it. I've put optics on. I didn't have optics. I had vents, vert stabs and a gun rammer. And I watched a Quickie Baby video reviewing this tank, and he said the view range is so good that you don't need optics on it. You can put the vents on, you can have reconnaissance, situational awareness, and that is enough to boost the tank's view range to where you need it, and then that frees up a slot for something else. But the PC version of this tank has actually got a view range of 20 metres more, and I was playing this tank, getting out spotted, not spotting the enemy first, and thought something's not right here. Looked at the stats and realised that the view range wasn't the same. and I've gone back to optics to get that back up to there. So not only just had this crew fully trained, so not really had all the perks and things working, and early days seems okay. It's if you want to be a snipey light tank, this is probably going to be the one for you. My tier 10 Leo just wanted a fast tank with good gun depression, and originally this had an accuracy of 0.29, and I remember looking at the stats and going, wow, I have got no tank that's got an accuracy of 0.2 something. It got nerfed, it's 0.3, probably doesn't make a big difference. Haven't played this enough, and kind of looking forward really to going back to the tier 10 mediums because they're still fast and they can do the damage. Yeah, just tier 10 lights really did stuff things up for me really, because I couldn't resist playing light tanks again all the way up to tier 10. The French Bat Chatillon, what was originally the tier 10 light tank. Before we had the light tanks, this is what you went for. This is why I went for it. Played the AMX 1390 twice to get this, because I'd already gone down the AMX 31 route and then went back to get this. Absolutely brilliant, stealthy tank. This is one of my two go back to tanks now, which are both at tier 10. I love this tank. If you want to be a stealthy, sneaky, roll up behind somebody and unleash absolute hell in the back of them and then disappear and reload, you're going to really enjoy this. It has got a very painful 40-second reload, but it is one of those tanks that you will dread on the battlefield if this thing sneaks up on you. It's really good fun. And my second go back to tank is the Soviet T100 LT. Oh, this tank is hilarious. It's brilliant. Tier 10 lights are going to stuff my stats up. I don't care. I've been playing too recklessly. I'm not being strategic enough, and that's because of this tank. Because it's a little bit, and it does remind me of the AMX ELC BIS, the French pocket rocket, because you zip around the battlefield and you never stand still, and it is such a low, difficult target to hit. I find when I use this for active spotting that I go way beyond the realms of where I would normally turn back and think I've gone far enough on the battlefield now and my team certainly aren't anywhere near me, but I will push even further, because you can almost push right into the enemy with this, and they have got the joy of trying to hit you on the move, and good luck, because this tank is hard to hit. And when you're pulling back off of a ridgeline, that frontal slope and that turret armour is very effective at bouncing those rogue shots. This tank is fun, but it's not accurate. 0.46 accuracy. This tank does not snipe, but its ability to shoot on the move, circle round an enemy at close to medium range, I don't think it can be beaten. It's quite a standout tank for all its own reasons, and I'm really glad this tank came to World of Tanks. And finally, my trusty T62A. I was doing well with this tank. One of the few armoured tanks that I play. The trouble is I play a lot of fast, zero armoured tanks, and when I actually go to play a tank with armour, I really don't know how to play it because I'm just not used to having armour, and the turret armour on this is virtually bulletproof, and it's got an amazing 6.5 second reload and 320 damage per shot. The reload is amazing on this, and you can really dish some damage, and an accuracy of 0.34 is pretty damn good too. Since I've stopped playing this, haven't seen a Top Gun, I haven't seen a Devastator, I've not seen many Devastators in my tanking career anyway, but this was the tank that would earn them for me. And I think once the novelty of the tier 10 lights is finished, if it ever does for me, because I do like my light tanks, I'm quite looking forward to going back to my tier 10 mediums, getting a little bit more strategic, doing some decent damage, and perhaps just playing maybe a little bit more seriously than I do now in my light tanks. That's my 7 tier 10 tanks. I thought you might want a little bit more of a talk through on them. I hope you enjoyed that. Keep safe, keep tanking, and I'll see you soon.